October 19th, 2015, election night in Canada. Dissatisfied with the country's direction, a record number of Canadians voted. The result? Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister with a promise of real change.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends, a real change!
Canadians believed his government would build more homes, lower costs, and usher in a new golden age, the Canadian dream. Fast forward to today, and that dream is fading. Housing prices are at record highs, food banks are overwhelmed, and immigrants are leaving in record numbers. The Canadian dream has become a nightmare. Many Canadians feel hopeless. Owning a home seems impossible. To afford the average home, a family needs $170,000 per year, while in Vancouver it's $360,000. Compare that to the $70,000 median income, and home ownership feels like a fantasy. Most Canadians who don't own a home have given up. Housing wasn't always this expensive, but in recent decades, home prices have far outpaced wages. Even if you can afford a home, you aren't getting much. $2 million in Vancouver gets you a tiny house. Renting is no better. Years of underbuilding, NIMBYism, and red tape have created a historic shortage. Canada's rental vacancy rate is just 1.5%, meaning every apartment has hundreds of applicants. People must choose between rent, food, or electricity. They can't afford all three. With low supply, landlords keep raising rents.
Our landlord increased our rent by $7,000 per month.
The average one-bedroom in Toronto or Vancouver now costs $3,000 per month. After taxes and rent, many barely survive. Debt is necessary just to get by, making Canada the third highest in household debt to GDP ratio globally. And the government, instead of helping, it makes things worse. Trudeau's government has led the biggest home price surge in history, largely due to mass immigration. Since 2016, Canada has admitted 3 million immigrants, 40% more than previous decades, further straining the housing market. Most immigrants seek entry-level housing, directly competing with young Canadians. The result? Even students at UBC live in vans or fly from other cities because it's cheaper than renting.
Because I lived in dorms for the past year and a half, and then this year I can't afford it, so I'm actually living with my mom in Chilliwack, so I transit to school from Chilliwack now. Yeah.
Immigration. Let's talk about it. In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast, like baby boom fast. And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests. So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
But immigration isn't the only problem. Canada has underinvested in housing for decades. Experts say 5 million more homes are needed by 2030 to fix affordability, but builders say it's impossible. Why? Homeowners fight new developments to keep property values high. Governments slow projects with taxes and red tape, adding 20% to home costs. This directly impacts buyers. Meanwhile, government spending keeps rising. From 2020 to 2023, BC's government workforce grew by 23%, while the private sector grew by just 1%. At the federal level, spending has jumped by $20 billion per year. Then there's foreign investment. Canada is one of the easiest places to launder money. A government report confirmed that black market money fuels real estate in Vancouver and Toronto. The government? They've done nothing to stop it. Beyond housing, everything is expensive. Food prices rose 10% since 2022, forcing 2 million Canadians to rely on food banks. Double 2019 levels. A big reason? Lack of competition. Just a few companies control 80% of groceries, inflating prices. The worst example? Bread. Just 2 companies dominate the market, and the government actively raises costs. The carbon tax has made gas, heating, and electricity more expensive.
They collect a little bit more tax than us Canadians and make us all broke. We're going to be able to save the planet.
Canadians already pay the most for gas among G7 countries. The tax has sparked major backlash, but the government refuses to remove it.
Conservative premiers across this country are misleading
Then there's
Canadians.
telecom costs, the highest in the world. Canadians pay 7 times more than Australians and 1,000 times more than Finland. Why? Major corporations are protected, eliminating competition. And banking isn't any better. Strict regulations make opening new banks nearly impossible, forcing Canadians to pay some of the highest banking fees worldwide. With high costs and stagnant wages, the only way out is economic growth. But since 2019, Canada's economy has stalled while the U.S. has grown by 6%. Investors avoid Canada, believing they can make more money elsewhere. As a result, 7% of Canadians move to the U.S. every year for higher wages and lower costs. The loser? Hard-working Canadians struggling as productivity declines. With a weak economy, the Bank of Canada will struggle to control interest rates, making life even harder. The outlook? It's grim. Something must change, and fast.
Like, comment, and subscribe.